Welcome to episode 7 of the Time Expansion Project. I'm John K. Coyle, and as always, we'll explore the neuroscience and psychology of time perception with the goal of finding a way to slow, stop, and reverse the perceived acceleration of time that most adults feel and experience the endless summers of youth again. In the last episode, we talked about the law of inversion, the way that time in the present is often inversely proportional to the way it feels and is remembered in the past, and memory governs everything. In this episode, we're going to conquer the most important law of time expansion, which is the law of expansion itself. This is the notion that time, under certain variable conditions, can actually expand and expand well beyond its temporal boundaries, and that you can create time out of nothing. And the physics principle here is the law of general relativity from Einstein, which sort of promotes the idea that time is variable based on the conditions in which you're experiencing it. And so the great metaphor is you can put a clock on the ground and a clock on a space shuttle that circles the Earth for a few times, comes back. Because of the speed and acceleration of that second clock, it's going to read slightly slower than the first one. And then in the extreme cases, you take that second clock and you put it on a rocket that's heading towards a black hole or a massive gravitational object. And as it accelerates towards the speed of light, time stops relative to the outside world. And this is a place in time called the event horizon. So inside of that spacecraft, time stops relative to the outside world. And I think we can and should and do create event horizon moments, or kairos moments from our Greek analogy earlier, where time stops and everything happens at once. So consider this. Is there a boring week of days you would trade away to save a really important, fun, exciting, memorable day? Of course, right? Take that to the extreme. Is there a moment, a minute of such scintillating importance, such gravity that you would trade away an entire year of mundane days to keep? Let's invert that. Maybe, maybe not, but let's invert that. What if you could design moments worth a month, worth a year? What if you could design 5 moments worth a year each year, or 10? Well, then you wouldn't live, in my case, 43 more years. You'd live 430. And there's a man who did exactly that, and I'm now currently living this way as well. His name is Eugene O'Kelly. And in 2006, Eugene O'Kelly was the CEO of KPMG. And obviously you have to be very bright to be in charge of one of the world's largest accounting firms. But Eugene, that year, unfortunately, was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer and given only 3 months to live. No treatment. And so he quickly got himself out of KPMG in like one day, and the next day he got his will and testament in order, and now he had his 88 days to live the rest of his life. And then what he did next was so genius. He acknowledged that what matters most in life is people and experiences. And so we put everybody that mattered into his life into 5 cohorts. Business, peers and mentors, friends, close friends, extended family, nuclear family, and best friends. And for each of them, he created unwinding moments, in his own words, where he had to say goodbye forever because he wasn't going to have a chance to do it again. So he started with the outer cohorts, and for them, it was a walk in the park or it was a phone call. And these were not all sad moments, actually. There was a lot of gratitude, a lot of love, even joy. They were laughing. And there was a really intense moments as they're sharing their gratitude for what they learned from each other. And they weren't all sad. In fact, there were some really amazing, memorable, happy moments. And then he moves into the next cohorts, and for closer friends and extended family, he recreated how they first bonded, that first flow moment where they suddenly realized that they loved baseball or sailing, or they were at a concert or a certain restaurant. And so he recreated that. And so he took them skiing or sailing or went to those places, and they rebonded over those same exact memories. And for them, it cemented the importance of their relationship. And he created, in his own words, at this time, perfect moments where time stopped. And then he moved into the last 2 cohorts, close family and best friends. And for them, he created bucket list adventures, things they never have done before, they would never forget. And he tried to have some really fun, different outings. And finally, his last unwinding of them all was for his 14-year-old daughter. He had to say goodbye to her forever. And she said, "Papa, I want to go see the Northern Lights in the Inuit in Alaska, and I want to go to Prague and see the castles." And so he arranged all that for her. But it was at this time in Eugene O'Kelly's life that he realized something that's changed my life forever. he realized that he was going to live longer than if he had never gotten cancer at all. Each day expanded so far beyond its temporal realms that each day felt like a year. He didn't live 90 days. He lived 90 years in those last 90 days. And he wrote a book during this period because, he had lots of time. The book is called Chasing Daylight. And in this book, you can feel the gratitude pouring off the pages. And the first 2 sentences of the book really encapsulate everything that I'm talking about here. He says, I was blessed. I was told I had 3 months to live. So how do we put this law of expansion in your favor? You want to invest your time to create moments of such gravity that meaning supersedes everything, that these moments can be worth a year. And the key characteristics are really 6 things. There's usually some element of risk and uncertainty to trigger the amygdala to wake up. There's usually some uniqueness to them. Is it a way that's something that you want to remember because it's different? Is it emotionally intense? Are you fully imbued in the moment? Is it physically intense? Probably the least important, but often really helpful. Is it beautiful? Trauma works as well, but that's not what we're trying to design for. And then finally, can you get yourself into the flow state, the peak performance state, where you write down and recall 4 to 5 times more memories than in other states? When you could stack all 6 of these, like I did with Running with the Bulls, you don't live 43 more years. You can live 430. I'm living proof. Last year was at least 20 years long. I had a lot of these stacked expansion moments, these kairos moments, these event horizon moments, and you can have them too. And that gets me back to one of the key principles, which is when life gives you choices, choose the one that makes the best story. All right, please subscribe, share, love your comments. Please share your thoughts. And for the next episode, please click the link above. So when you're thinking of these sorts of experiences, these expansion experiences, where you stack some, if not all of these critical elements, risk and uncertainty, uniqueness, emotional intensity, physical intensity, beauty, and flow state together, it probably quickly comes to mind that you can pay for and buy these experiences, and you can and you should. But they're also free. So I'm going to give you 2 quick examples within this episode, and then we'll dig into lots more ways to design these going forward. So here's the first notion. I was giving this talk a few years ago, and a great friend of mine and the head of a major client said to me, you know what, I'm going to do something for my son. And so he wrote it out actually for me later. He went home after the talk. His son was turning 12 shortly, and living in Australia, he was still a fan of his father's favorite football club, soccer club, back in the UK, which is where his father is from. And so he wore the jerseys, have been following the game since he was pretty much 5 years old. Huge fan of this London-based soccer club, but never been to London, never been out of the UK, never been out of Australia. And so his father was like, all right, I'm going to take him to a game. But I'm not going to tell him. So surprise, risk, uncertainty, uniqueness. He took his son to the airport, didn't tell him where they were going. Long flight. His son, obviously sees once they get on the plane where they're going. Why are we going to London, Dad? Well, you'll see. So they land in London, and then they take the bus to the game. And now he sees the stadium he's seen a bazillion times. He's like, okay, I know why I'm here. But then they walk around the back of the stadium, because that's when the entire team filed out holding a jersey for his son, because he had paid for him to be the mascot. He got in the jersey, he went on the field, he warmed up with them, he watched the game with them, he sat with them, they signed his jerseys afterwards and walked him back outside because Dad paid for that. And Dad can't tell the story without crying about it. And I don't know who got out of it more, the son or the father, but the point is he created an event horizon moment for his son and for himself by designing it, but it cost probably a pretty penny. Contrast that, my business partner, Monica, a number of years ago, found out there was a meteor shower happening overhead, and they live in Wisconsin, and it was in September. And it was already, school had already started, but she woke 2 of her sons up separately at 1, 2 in the morning. Risk and uncertainty, uniqueness. They walk outside. She's got 2 blankets over her shoulder. They don't know what's going on. She goes to the top of the hill with one of them, lays down the 2 blankets. They lay down, they look up, they see these meteors striking the Earth's atmosphere. Smoke trails behind them. It was so crisp and clear that night. And these bright lights just exploding, shooting ever mostly the same direction. And then she went and got her second son, aged 11, and did the same thing. Put them both to bed after 7-8 minutes. Cost nothing. Took a few minutes. And a memory nobody will ever forget. Completely free. So you can design these moments by paying for them, and you should also find ways to find them for free.